Alrighty, just moving on to the alloys now. My workflow is a bit random, so I do jump from bit to bit all the time. Basically, just use a cylinder here just to get the rough proportions of the alloy. We're using a different image to model by, because I couldn't really find any reference for this alloy that's on the stock model. So just searched around, find one I liked. And basically we'll just use that one. So for the time being we won't need our reference images that we set up, and we'll just create a new plane, then we'll just put our reference on there. Okay, just copy that so we don't have to do the bitmaps again. We're going to be doing this one slightly differently, as we're going to be using we're going to scale it with a UVW. So it doesn't matter particularly what it looks like when we first initially put it on, just dump it in there and then just rename it. Scroll down, have a UVW map, make sure it's on planar, click bitmap fit, and then just select your image again. And now it should be in 1:1 proportions to our image. So it doesn't actually matter what size the plane we made is. So we'll just scale that up. Make sure you turn off tiling, so you just get the one image. So basically just scale up till it matches the correct size of our reference cylinder. Looks about right. Okay, basically it's I was going to move it around so it's easier. Excuse me. I was going to move it around so we could just use the center line, but it doesn't really matter where we start symmetry and whatnot. So basically the point has 10 points of symmetry. So if we do a 10-sided, that basically gives us our lines of symmetry that we're going to be using. Basically 5 parts repeated, and then it's got 10 lines of symmetry. So we'll just model 1/10 of that, and then we can just use symmetries to copy it around, really. So just make sure each line of that cap segment goes through the center of the reference image of where we are copying the symmetry. Again, because the image has perspective distortion, then you won't be able to match it up perfectly, but you can get it pretty much there. Then just delete all the bits that we don't need. Do that for the wrong bit, then basically just do the same for our reference image we did before, just to make it frozen, but we'll still be able to see the image, because we don't want to accidentally select it while we're modeling. Basically just grabbing a few circle splines, and then we'll basically just use them just as a bit of extra reference to make sure we're keeping things cylindrical and whatnot. Be using these quite a lot throughout the DVD. Just with Turbo Smooth stuff, as soon as you start adding in edges, then it takes away from the cylindrical shape. So as long as you got a reference, then you can keep it keep it cylindrical and just make it look all good. So on to modelling. Basically just start with a plane, as we will be for pretty much everything. Take off the segments, convert to poly. And then we'll just start moving verts around really. Just matching up to the reference. And just shift drag some edges out really. Yeah, it's usually easier to have your point of symmetry already out, so it just makes things easier to check really, because you're not just looking at one half all the time. You're seeing like essentially the whole bit you're modelling. So just roughly adjust the symmetry line there. And we'll just do the other one on the other side as well. And then turbo smooth on top. So as you can see by the light on the reference images, this piece is actually angled, so obviously just push that back a bit. And basically just keep on shift dragging edges and finishing the shape really. Just adding in a few edges just to keep even spaces polys, just for subdivision stuff really. It's best to keep it even throughout. Yeah, basically just using show end result as we go, just to double check the completed shape that we're making. Just kind of like trying to figure out what topology to use like in my head while I'm doing this. I'm just like playing around with it. So basically for this we're going to be needing a few more edges, so we just select that edge, loop it, and then chamfer it. Yeah, because we move that, we'll just remove these just to make it straight again. And we just quickly add them in again. So now that extra cut gives us an edge in the right place, so we can just extrude out now. A quick little method there. If you don't, sometimes you don't really need to slide an edge up with edge constraints, so you can just just mash in a few edges and just delete the ones you don't need. It's always good from time to time just to zoom out and check your model, because if you're like zoomed in all the time, like pushing polys around for hours on end, then you can kind of lose track of kind of scale and what you're making really. So just now and again just zoom out a bit, see what's going on. That edge is actually a little bit sharper than we initially made it, so just adding in yet again another little edge there, just to sharpen the corner up a little bit. Basically just using a loop there. A lot of the time it takes way too long just to select each individual edge, so just use that ring and loop where you can really, and just deselect the stuff you don't need. Just trying to make this bit a little bit deeper, so just pull it down a bit more. Not quite a vertical extrude there, so we'll just pull it out to give it a little bit of a slope. And just double checking our model. More poly pushing, really. While you're moving like one part of this model, you can actually check in the symmetry part of the model and can actually get like a real-time update of the final product. So you could be moving these verts, but actually looking to the, so say the right side of it, and see actually what the finished product looks like. 'Cause most of the time it's quite hard to see when there's loads of vertices and edges in the way. A little bit of a slope on this piece, just moving the edges accordingly. And because we basically altered the shape of this, you can just turn on edge constraint, drag it down, and then just pull it back up again, and then the plate that'll make sure the make sure the face is planar, which is what we want, which will leave no bumps and creases and whatnot, which for sub D stuff is generally what we're after. Just remember to turn it off when you're done with it. Again, we made a change there, so just make sure we fix the edges afterwards. Yeah, shift, drag, and scale there. Basically, just make the transfer from this piece to the actual rim itself. Adding in the edge loops. Yeah, basically just use a bridge there to select both edges and just click bridge. And same again, just using the edge constraint to slide in the new edges. The only actual reference to this rim I could find, so that's kind of like make up what the back of it looks like. Didn't think it was that thick as I wanted it, so I just delete those edges and we'll just pull it back a bit. Yeah, if you ever need two edges, you can just do a little chamfer on them. Saves going in and out of the connect dialog all the time, which is a mad waste of time. Yeah, getting a bit closer to the shape. Yeah, decided to make a similar shape on the back, just without the slope. So we won't be able to use symmetry in this case. So basically just copy the shape manually, really. Yeah, and just shift drag in and adjust inverts as we go. Just target weld up to get the new edges. And then we'll just match them up again. So we'll just continue and just bridge these bits together just to fill in the shape really. Making sure the number of edges matches up so we can finish the bridging. Piece isn't quite planar, which it should be, so basically just select all these bits, and then by scaling them in the one axis, essentially making it a planar face. Yeah, just add in the extra edge loops as before. There's a little bit of a dent in here, so we'll just try and sort that out. Just make planar seams to sort of that, so that's all good. Yeah, just align the pivot to the plane there, and then that'll give us the proper symmetry point to use for the rest of the pieces. Because the default's 5, we're using 10 pieces, that's not going to fit into 5 properly, so we'll just take it down to 1, and that'll allow us the degrees to move it to the correct orientation. I think this is got like an uneven, they have uneven symmetry points, so I don't think it's going to symmetry properly. There we go, maybe I will. Essentially, just by making that little bit of the fork, essentially made the entire thing by making a tiny little piece. And here's where we use our circle reference. Essentially a final product's the thing we're after, so as long as you make sure it's pretty much matched up to the circle while it's in the show end result, then that's all good, really. So even though we've got a group of vertices there which would create a hard edge, and we still be able to make it a cylindrical shape just by matching up to the circle ref there. Basically need to extrude like a cylindrical shape out here, so basically you need to make a flat plane. So we'll just extrude these out, weld it up so it all matches all round, then we'll go from there. Again, just make sure it matches to our circle ref. Now we can just collapse that so we can use the border functions, which makes doing cylindrical stuff a bit easier. So select the border there, hotkey 3. Now we'll just shift drag that out as usual. If you've got 2011, I started this in 2010, even though 2011 is out now. You can use the circle function. You can select the border and press circle. I think it's in the graphite tools, but it does mess up the edges a little bit. So you can use this method, basically using a new cylinder, the same amount of edges as we've got, and then you can essentially bridge the faces, and you get a perfect circle out of it. So basically just flip that face, attach it, and then we can just bridge the edges. And we'll just rotate it around so it matches up a bit better. Again, just double check with the reference. Essentially align that border to the pivot point, and then we know it's perfectly in the middle. Yeah, let's do a little bit of scaling just to fix it up, really. And we'll just shift drag to finish the shape. Just using the border selection, convert to the face there by control clicking the polygon, or it's in the quad menus as well, and then just growing it there. Yeah, I use this stuff quite a lot, so I just got it all on like quads or hotkeys and that. Yeah, as you can see, it matches up pretty well to the reference, to be honest.